If you start doing the work, listening to your heart, and letting go of the subconscious beliefs that are preventing you from hearing what your heart wants, then it's all about organizing your time to give your heart what it wants. The only difference between someone who lives an ordinary life and an extraordinary life is their ability to take actions.
In today's world online, customers and everybody expect personalized support on every channel and in every way. They want it done right now. But the problem is most solutions out there don't allow that to happen. They're not delivering. So your customer service reps are struggling to stay productive, and your customers honestly just aren't as happy as they probably once were. Now's the time to change that. This is exactly why there's a new AI-powered service hub from HubSpot. The service hub actually allows you to bring this type of level of service and success together for the first time so you can deliver on the expectations that people are expecting. And actually, it's boosting revenue along the way. The reps that are using Service Hub from HubSpot right now are reporting 13 times faster to help them resolve tickets, and also it helps them close something like 42% more tickets per day. So that basically means that you're also retaining people at a much higher rate. They're saying more than 80%. Not only that, you're getting this full 360 view of your customers in this smart CRM that basically helps and supports you in the marketing, sales, and service delivery and success of your team, but also making the experience much better for your customer, which boosts your revenue and your business growth. Go and visit HubSpot.com/service to learn how this all new solution can help you deliver for your customers. Hey, do you ever feel like you're hustling and grinding and kind of getting nowhere? You feel like you're like, why the heck am I even doing this? Why am I in the game? Should I change things up? I'm not where I want to be. Well, my guest today is Dr. Lise Janelle, and she basically claims, and I would agree, and the stats are in to say the same, is about 90 to 95% of your actions are driven by the subconscious stuff that's going on inside of you. A lot of that's some childhood stuff that you probably are not aware of, or maybe you are, and that's a great thing if you are. But just think of all those things that are happening internally. And I'm not talking, this isn't woo-woo, this is literally stuff that has you act without really thinking. And a lot of this stuff shows up, it shows up everywhere in your life, but think about how it's doing in your business and also how it carries everywhere else outside of business. That's what we talk about with Dr. Lise. And it's very insightful because she has a whole method. She'll break down how to tap into more of your intuition and start to quiet and listen to what you really want, because that's the heart of everything. That's how your actions start. So it's time to clear all those subconscious blockages and barriers that you have. Lise Janelle is going to do that for you. So I'm going to turn it over to the doctor. Here we go. All right, Dr. Lise, it's so great to have you here. And I'm very excited personally because this is the work that you do with driven professionals, entrepreneurs, to bust through these things that I think a lot of us don't realize we're doing, or maybe self-sabotaging. There's these deeper levels that we're not aware of. That's what you specialize in for so long. So I'm happy you're here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Joe. It's fun. I love talking about this because a lot of people, I find, especially with entrepreneurs, because usually entrepreneurs are driven people and they have willpower and they follow the recipe, and then they get so frustrated because they can't get the response that they should be getting by following the recipe. And then after a while, if they try once, twice, 3 times, they kind of think, maybe I'm not meant to have what I want. No. If you're following the recipe and you're doing all the right action, if you're not getting the results you want, it's because subconsciously, I'm going to use my famous yin yang, subconsciously you have associated more pain than pleasure, more danger than safety to something you want. So the key to this is to find out and dissolve the subconscious block, and ta-da! It opens a brand new world to you.
Oh man. Okay. So I know we're all walking around with our individual subconscious blocks, and we can talk about where they come from. I'm sure it's a lot of childhood stuff and things we're not aware of, situations, but at the end of the day, it's Yeah, driven. A lot of folks who are listening, and this is where I feel like I attract, are the driven professionals or driven people in general. A lot of them have a business of their own. And you're right. It's like, as a driven, I know I can relate to this, is it's all or nothing sometimes. It's like the success, I did that, but also the failures, which can really hurt and then take us out of the game, and not fulfill the mission or whatever that impact is that we want.
Just to give you an example of how extreme this can be, the subconscious mind, like I had an Olympic level Canadian skier. So, Canadian skiers, they don't make a lot of money.
Pretty good, I
You
would imagine.
know, if
No.
the only reason why they do this is because obviously they should want to win. Like you train every day, you don't have a
Yeah.
social life, you make no money. Obviously, if you're doing this, it should be because consciously and subconsciously you want to win. But she came to see me because she had not placed in 2 years. So when I did the work that I do, the subconscious work, I tested her on, I want to win. And lo and behold, we discovered that subconsciously she did not want to win. Why? Because when she was 7 years old, she was already winning more than her brother, so her mom would hide her medals and her trophies not to make her siblings feel poorly.
So like a shame almost, or a guilt.
Yeah, a
in way.
guilt, exactly. So as an adult, your teammates feel like siblings. The Pavlovian bell rings, and then, like she
Yeah.
says, I had an interview with her, you lean back too much or you don't take that curve, and like a thousandth of a second can make you win or lose. So anyway,
Yep.
I worked with her, and we had 2 sessions, and she ended up on the podium, and her ranking ended up going much higher afterwards, just because of doing this kind of work. So it doesn't have to take 10,000 years to free yourself. Like you can get rid of these beliefs very quickly.
Really? Wow. So I get it. Well, first of all, I'll give you a shout out because I met you through Mike Koenig's. I think it was one of the trainings we were doing, and I'm working closely with Mike on a lot of the AI stuff we're building out and helping business owners. And that's where I realized, oh yeah, you've worked with Mike. You did a whole podcast with him, and I trust and love that guy. And he was saying something similar. Is like there were these immediate breakthroughs you were able to, I guess, identify first, and then there's a process that was it the heart freedom method, I believe, and
Yep.
maybe there's more there. But tell me a little bit about the bigger picture here. I think is what we're establishing is breaking through these barriers, and so I want to talk about you, of course, and how you even got to this to even start to identify and figure out how to bust through these, but also the method. Diving into that.
My background, I'm a chiropractor. I was a holistic chiropractor for 22 years. And I used to see on average like 8,000 patient visits a year. So I was pretty busy as a chiropractor. And in the beginning of my career, I got frustrated because I could have 10 people with similar stories. 8 of them would get better. And 2 of them, if I did the regular adjustment stuff, it was not going away. So it sent me on a quest to find methods that I could use that would make a difference. And I ended up meeting Dr. Scott Walker, and I learned NET, neuro-emotional technique. And I was able to, learning how to find and dissolve the stories, the condition and response that are stuck in the physiology. I was able to help my chiropractic patients, but I also started helping my patients because they were blocked, they were unhappy. So I started using the method to make them happier. And I realized after a while, like what I really love to do is help people live amazing lives. Like I love helping people get out of pain, but like when I see the sparkles in people's eyes because they know they're about to get what they would love out of life, like I get goosebumps from that. Like truly, I would do it for free just because I just love it so much. So since 1989, I've been doing this kind of work. And now in 2024, I still love it every time I do it. So I met Scott Walker, but then also I met another chiropractor. His name is John DeMartini.
Yeah, I know he's been on the show.
He's been on the show. So John talks about the power of gratitude. So I ended up creating a method, my own method that combines principles of both. And
Okay.
every time someone does the method, they clear the physiology from the conditioned response. But also my aim each time you do it is to let go of a story that has been holding yourself back down, that decrease your self-worth, because it's instantaneous. As soon as you get gratitude, you increase your self-worth. And when you increase your self-worth,
Ah,
that gets reflected in everything in your life. Gets reflected in your relationship, in your finances, in your career. Different opportunities happen when you increase your self-worth, because otherwise you say the wrong thing at the perfect time or the right thing at the wrong time, and things don't seem to click. And you always wonder why. Well, that's why.
friction.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Inner resistance. It's exhausting.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And gratitude, because I do remember that Dr. John DeMartini talking about that is that overwhelming gratitude and how that it reverberates in so many in all aspects of life. It's however it's really up to us. It's a choice, and maybe we go deeper on that a little bit because and how you layer that in with your method, of course, of how that relates to self worth and what keep comes to mind here are the stories that we tell ourselves that we're aware of or we're not aware of, but we're doing it nonetheless.
Yeah, what you said there is key, because there are the stories we are aware of, and then there are the stories we're not aware of. And people don't realize that 90 to 95% of what we do is actually pre-programmed in our conscious subconscious mind. So we think we're in charge of the show, but in fact, we're just in reaction all the time. And from working with thousands of people, literally thousands of people one-on-one,
Yeah.
like I started to see patterns. If you don't see patterns, you're a
Mm-hmm.
bit thick. Just like you're really good with
It's true.
AI. After a while, you say, okay, this is going to lead to this, this is going to lead. So it's the same thing for me. And I created what I call the map of the spiritual human potential. And the way I see it, there are two stages to human development. Stage one is the unconscious, asleep, infantile stage. Everybody gets through that one. And
Mm-hmm.
then stage two is the conscious, awake, and mature state. The main difference between stage one and stage two is in stage one, you get your sense of self from the way the world reacts to you. So when the world
Uh-huh.
reacts to you in the way you like, you feel like, I'm amazing. I'm king of the world. I'm queen of the world. I can
Yeah.
have anything I want. But when the world does not react to you the same way, you start creating stories. What's wrong with
Mm.
me? I can't get what I want. So this is super important. You won't create what you want in life. You're going to create what you believe. You won't create what you want in life. You're going to create what you believe. So even though you're an entrepreneur, you're driven, you want to make things happen, if subconsciously you believe that you're not deserving of having this, you'll always hit a
Uh-huh.
plateau and you will
Yep.
stay stuck at that plateau. So when people say, oh no, I know I'm worthy, like, oh no, like, sure, consciously, you know that, but subconsciously, you're not always buying into it. Because relatively speaking, your conscious mind, just like the Olympic level skier, is the size of a football that wants to
Mm.
succeed. But your subconscious mind, which is not the enemy, it's actually there to help keep you alive. Because our
Mm-hmm.
subconscious mind is constantly computing. This is good for me. This is dangerous for me. This is good for me. This is dangerous for me. So it's constantly computing to see what's going on. So you have stored these beliefs that when people come to see me and they sit there like, prove me wrong and blah, 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 it's like, and especially like, let's say you're someone who can make $10 million a year. You go, no, I don't need this. I know I'm good. Well, what if your potential instead was $100 million a year?
There you go.
So,
Yes.
because of these stories that we create in the unconscious phase of life, we all end up hitting a ceiling where you
Mm-hmm.
can break
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
And if it's not going to be in your business, it's going to be in your love life that's going to suck, or your health is going to suck. There is something that's going to happen that sabotages you. And it's
Yes.
such a fun journey to go on the journey.
Well, it's a never-ending journey, right? I would imagine earlier stages being more of these ceilings that we might be hitting, and I'm assuming, and totally correct me, is that when we become more aware of what our subconscious is thinking, maybe some of these patterns with our speech internally or even externally, what we put out into the world, which starts internally, of course, then hopefully we can start to identify what our ceilings are a little easier and it gets
My
in turn.
clients who work with me for a while, they come to see me and go, "Oh, Lise, I say I'm going to do this, but this always happens." So there are three clues that you have a subconscious belief working against you. Number one, you know what needs to be done, but you're not doing it. You just know that if you picked up
Yep.
the phone to call this potential client, your whole career would change. But all of a sudden, you need to clean the windows, eat a bag of cookies instead. You'll do
Wait. Other people do that too, not just me? No.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
exactly. So it's not because you're lazy. It's not because you lack willpower and these things happen. Again, it's because subconsciously it's more dangerous for you to do this than not to do it. And just like, my Olympic level skier, she was holding herself back not to win. And you'd be amazed. Like I was I was the keynote speaker at a coaching convention in Chicago, and there were like 350 coaches from everywhere. And I
Wow.
told a story about, checking your subconscious mind. And I said, if you want, after my talk, you can come and see me and I'll check you on, I'm already willing and able to be successful. For I had at least 100 coaches. So coaches should be all about, success. You
Yeah.
think so?
Ideally.
I
Yeah.
did. You hope so? Out of the
Yeah.
100, there was only one coach that was okay being successful. All the other
Wow.
one had associated. Most people have a fear of being successful because either people are gonna be jealous of them, they're gonna leave friends behind, they're going to
Hmm.
another big one, especially for men towards their father. It's not cool to make more money than my father because I don't want to make him feel poorly about himself. And it's like
Interesting.
in a family, it's like a wolf clan. You have the alpha wolf and the beta wolf.
Yeah.
And what happens if the beta wolves start to be more powerful than alpha? It destroys the whole clan. So at some level, I
Yeah.
believe that's my theory. Who's going to prove it or disprove it? I don't know. But I find that pattern quite often that especially the male child does not want to overshadow the father, especially if they love
That's
the
it.
father. They, this,
Hmm.
they will do things, they will get almost there, and then something is going to happen that's going to destroy it.
Yeah.
Actually, a good thing is sometimes when the male child is really resentful of the father, it drives the anger just to become
I was gonna say,
so
yeah.
successful to beat and say, see, I'm better than you. Actually, when I read Lance Armstrong's biography, his cycling
Yeah.
career, I'm pretty sure like he was really angry with his father. I thought, oh, like listen, here's this guy who
Uh-huh.
ended up on the world stage to, tell his father you can do
Yeah, I did
it.
it. Look at me. Yeah.
Exactly. See what you missed on. So it's
Yeah.
it's fascinating because you can use like stage one. Everybody has to go through stage one, but it's a reactionary
Mm.
stage. But if you start to look at everything that's ever happened to you as happening for you instead of to you, then you can have gratitude. From working with all thousands of people, I create analogies that there are, I call that the boot camp. So stage one is your boot camp.
Mm. Yep.
And
Yep.
there are three types of boot camp. Some people are born into a musical boot camp. Life was easy, not too many challenges. The price to pay, though, is that you're not equipped for real life. So when you graduate from that boot camp, you face different challenges.
Hmm.
Then some people were born into an athletic boot camp. So they get supported in challenge. It's a good boot camp to be born into. You still get, the occasion to create stories about your worth because sometimes the world doesn't give you what you want and you're not conscious yet. So you make it about your worth. If I was worthy, this would not happen to me. That's not true. Like, I do public speaking and I teach seminars, and I've asked at least 1,000 people, raise your hand if you never had huge challenges. And so far, I only had one person. It was a young girl. She goes, me, and I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen when something happens to me and I have to face a challenge. So if you're a smart human being, what you're going to do is you're not going to try to avoid challenges. You're going to learn to use them to your advantage. That's how you can become grateful for everything. Because also when we get too much support, that's also just as dangerous. Why? Because, oh, it's so nice here. I want to stay in bed. My partner is so nice and cozy. And like, I don't want to go, I don't want to challenge myself today. So that's why it's important to be conscious. Okay, so that's the second boot camp. And then there's the third boot camp. And those are my favorite clients, are actually the graduate from the Navy SEAL boot camp. If you manage to survive Hell Week, you're a superhero. The only problem with the Navy SEAL boot camp is you've had so many opportunities to be knocked out so hard that you end up creating a story subconsciously that something must be wrong with you for having had this experience. And this is where you end up hitting the ceiling. So even though these people are super driven and capable, because the boot camp they graduated from can make them super successful, until they let go of the subconscious belief, they're in trouble. They will always hit a ceiling. And that's when they get themselves in trouble. So basically in stage one, what ends up happening is you end up running away from pain towards pleasure, constantly trying to compensate. But if you take a moment yourself, Joe, and look back at your life, you will see that all these things that you experience in your life, like especially sibling stories, like let's say your sibling is really good at sport and you're not so good, then you might become a computer genius, You're going to find a way to, find your place. You're going to be driven in different ways. So you can see how everything that's happened in your life, if you become grateful for it, now you can leave stage one for stage two.
Before going to stage two, the gratefulness, I think that's a part where, consciously, is it like a forcing of things just to start it off, like to get that? It's almost like a repetition, like a muscle to work, or is there a
because you can't do it through your head. It's not going to work.
Correct.
It has to be in the heart. That's why I call it the heart freedom method. I know it might sound woo-woo, and some people think, oh, the heart. No. Like I've had people who are Mensa, super.
Yeah.
One of my friends before he met me, he was Mensa. He was a top lawyer in Canada. And he ended up losing his partner at the same time as he lost a case. And because he thought he could overcome everything with his mind, when something so big happened to him emotionally, he collapsed for 8 years, was unable to work. So a brilliant mind is actually an ivory tower that's not so powerful. You're recognized in society if you're smart, but it's not the best place to hide. At some point, something is going to happen and you're going to crash. And as high as you are in your brain, then you're going to go into your gut, your emotions. So the perfect power point is in the heart.
Hey, I'm going to pause the episode really fast and shout out another show that's on the podcast network over at HubSpot. It's the audio destination for business professionals. This is Mistakes That Made Me. It's hosted by Iman Ismail. She is interviewing successful business owners and talking about, hey, what are those mistakes? What are the failures? What are the things that you hate to talk about that we can all learn from? I mean, let's be honest. Do you like to talk about your mistakes? Probably not. Well, that's what she's talking about. And it's going to be there. It is there waiting for you to listen so you can learn from those lessons and learn how to get past them or navigate around those big boulders on your own journey to success. So go listen to Mistakes That Made Me wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, I want to tell you about an all-in-one marketing platform that's been a game changer for a bunch of businesses. It's called Kartra, and it's the all-in-one tool that you need to grow. So the point is, you don't need to pay for a whole bunch of different subscriptions because Kartra does it all. So what makes Kartra different is that you can automate everything. Everything from delivering your online courses, sending targeted emails, selling products, and even handling your customer support. So all in all, it's saving you time and a bunch of money. And right now, you can try it out for 30 days. Just head over to hustleandflowchart.com/Kartra and go get that free trial. Again, that is hustleandflowchart.com/KARTRA.
Usually people will shift from stage 1 to stage 2 through a challenge. This is how you can become grateful for everything that's happened in your life. So it's like for me, in 1988, my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He was given 9 months to live. That was 3 weeks before my sister's wedding. 1 week after my sister's wedding, my 21-year-old brother died in a car accident. And then from within a month of this, my 8-year relationship to the man I thought I was going to marry ended. And it was like, ow, ow, ow.
Yeah.
So to survive this boot camp, I went on a quest to understand, how do you live life when these things happen? It's not if they're going to happen. They will happen. Sorry, folks, if you think you can go through life without huge challenges, it doesn't happen. But once you connect inside and you start using some of these principles I'm talking about, you can face tremendous challenges. So usually people come to see me because their career is frustrating, their finance is frustrating, their health is frustrating, they lost their spouse, somebody they love died and they can't cope. So that's often the blessing of the challenges. Like me, this is what happened. Without it, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you right now. And if you're lucky, you listen to a podcast like this one, and instead you get inspired. You go, oh, I want that. So you have the choice to get out of stage.
But you see what's possible, right?
Everything is possible.
Seeing is believing to it.
So you have a choice of getting out of stage 1, either because you got to, because it's too painful, or because you go, you know what, that sounds pretty good. I want to learn how to live in stage 2.
Got it. A choice.
So stage 2. So the difference between stage 1 is you get your sense of self from the way the world reacts to you. And it's like, this is the cosmic jokes that's played on us, because as soon as you're born, and I hear you just have a brand new baby, as soon as you're born, love has to come from the outside. And if it doesn't come, you're going to die. So we get used to looking to the outside and manipulate the outside to get what we want. So when the world is too busy for us and we're not getting what we want, we're in constant reaction. That's why stage 1 is super important. It's a boot camp. It's important. But in stage 2, what you do instead is you use inspiration. So in stage 1, you run away from pain towards pleasure. So it's basically fear is your fuel. But in stage 2, you use this. So I love the yin and the yang, because for me, it's a great visual for guiding people, because a visual engages the mind, but it's a wise visual. So when you're feeling emotional and you're feeling lost, if you can pop this visual into your mind, you can then pull yourself out more easily. So this is a visual for success in life. If you want to be successful in life, first, there's the female principle of listening. Your heart wants you to know 2 things. The first thing your heart wants you to know is you're worthy of love. And I explained to you why. The second thing your heart wants you to know, it wants you to admit your dreams and aspirations. And I can tell you from working with people, one of the most common times that we damage this is, especially if you were born a longer time than the new generation, but when we were babies, they would take us away from mom and put us on the nursery on a feeding schedule. So the being you've been with for 9 months, that you used to, that you want, imagine even now, if you're scared, we like having hugs. So now you're a little baby, you have no idea what's happening, and they take you away from mommy, and now you're crying. You're crying for mommy, and you cry and cry and cry. You cry and cry and cry and cry and cry, and nobody comes. What's wrong with me? So, worthy of love, that's one of the first place you're going to experience that.
Yeah.
The second thing that happens is like, I'm crying. Nobody's coming. Oh, it's not fun. I'm going to stop asking for what I want.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not getting fulfilled on my needs, whatever those needs are. I'm doing the best I can, but nothing's coming.
And so that's why people often don't want to actually know exactly what they want. And clarity on what you're here to create is super important. Without it, how can you get it? So that's why I know, if I have done this often enough, I know that if we start there, if you start doing the work, listening to your heart, and letting go of the subconscious beliefs that are preventing you from hearing what your heart wants, then it's all about organizing your time to give your heart what it wants. The only difference between someone who lives an ordinary life and an extraordinary life is their ability to take actions. So we will consciously prevent ourselves from taking action, but we'll also subconsciously create. So the game in stage 2 now is I'm going to listen to my heart, and that's why it's important to know your purpose in life. Because when this is another visual that I like to use. Imagine it's a mountain. You're climbing a mountain, and the top there is where you want to go. So on your way to the top of the mountain, you're going to attract support and challenges. And now if you're wise, you learn to use both sides to your advantage. When you get challenged, instead of going, oh, what's wrong with me? Why is this happening? You go, no, how am I going to use this to get what I want? It becomes a totally different game. Stage 2 is so much fun. I call stage 2 creating heaven on earth. Stage 1, the boot camp, or hell on earth. It's choice.
And either way, we're all going through boot camp. It's our decision how way we want to direct ourselves, right? It's the choice. And stage 2, like you're saying, it's really listening to our heart and knowing, or at least embodying our purpose, or whatever that North Star is. Maybe it's, for me, I retook my Colby recently, just to kind of get into that. And all these things can help you kind of identify maybe layers that we're unconscious to about our superpowers, more or less. And and sitting with that and listening internally. And I think heart more than anything. I do a lot of breath work, so
good.
That's a time to get away from my head and into my body. And there's no better way from what I at least can control than something like that. Like, it takes 5 minutes and I can do a reset, but say an hour. And with what you're saying, things start connecting that logically you just can't really find when you're in the work or trying to force it.
No, you cannot find these answers logically, because they're not logic. Just like you have a baby right now. Logically, having a baby is not such a fun thing, but your heart is calling you to have a baby. And when you're doing something you love, like you get up in the middle of the night, you haven't slept, but your baby's crying, you're going to get up. Why? Because your heart is calling you to do this. So if you're an entrepreneur and within you there's a desire to create something into the world, you're going to be willing to pay the price to get it. And the journey, the corny thing that it's not the destiny that matters, it's a journey. It's so true, because when you love something, it doesn't feel like you're working, you're doing it. You're doing it because it's so important for you. That's why most parents will tell you that the best thing they've ever done was to have a baby. Is it because it's fun all the time? Because there's no sacrifice? No, it's full of sacrifices, but it teaches you how to love. Like, for me, love is not an emotion. Love is our essence. It's who we are. And once you understand that, then the good news is we all have access to it if it's your essence. So in the heart, the only thing that lives in the heart is love, gratitude, inspiration, and wisdom. Love, gratitude, inspiration, and wisdom. When people tell me, oh, I don't know why I'm here, well, I know that if they don't know why they're here, it's because sometimes they never took the time to ask themselves because they didn't want to find out. And so they don't want to be disappointed for asking for what they want and not be able to get it. So that's
Yeah.
part of the story. But the other part is when you are not grateful, because if you're not grateful, you don't have access to inspiration.
Yep.
They're all connected together. When you have love
Yep.
and you have gratitude, gratitude brings you inspiration. The only way you're going to have inspiration and gratitude is if you have wisdom. So they're all connected together. And you will see like the most beautiful, successful people have met, they're humble because they're
Right.
inspired. It comes from a solid place inside of them. They've paid the price, that things have happened to them, and they've grown in wisdom. Those are the most beautiful people that I know.
And they've done the work, and that's the thing. There's these layers that get you to that point, and again, they've found the ceiling, and they've figured out some method to get through that ceiling, and maybe it seems logical from the outside looking in, but then yeah, when you start to, because I've had many of those types of folks on this podcast, and there's a lot of that believing it just needs to happen and trusting the process, trusting the journey that we're all on, and like you said, it's life working for you. And yeah, looking back, I mean, some of the darkest times that I've been through that have put me in the dumps of inaction have also been the times where I realized what is the thing that fires me up internally. Like I lost my dad unexpectedly, and then had my first daughter 2 weeks after that, and that knocked me out for a lot of reasons. Losing a father and then also gaining someone new in such a short period of time. There was a good stretch, a couple years, where there was a lot of fuzziness
Yeah,
and
you experienced the two
inaction.
extremes at the same time. And it was the same thing for me. Like I told you my story. My father was
Yeah,
diagnosed with terminal cancer. He was given 9 months to live with the, integrative medicine. He lived 4 years without any pain. But a
wow.
21-year-old healthy, cocky boy should not die before a sick father. But these events like Hughes, like they're extremes, and they make us really question reality. Otherwise, that's one of the things that happen when life is too easy. La 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 la. We don't take the time to go inside and really dig into what's gonna bring me actual happiness, actual success. Like
Yeah.
I've been to one of the biggest Hollywood stars that and I can tell you, you can have millions of fans, you can have private jet, a chef, all the money in the world you want. Still doesn't make you happy. It's not
Yeah,
this. It's
that's
not
true.
the key to happiness. The key to happiness is to know who you are, why you're here, where you're going, and create heaven on earth for yourself and your loved ones.
And who doesn't want that? And that's wow. I mean, it's powerful, and it's a process. It's not easy, but at the same time, what other choice do we have? If we want heaven on earth here.
Yeah. And
Um,
like what you just
wow.
said is so important. How do we think how can we expect to have peace on earth if we don't even have peace with our
Yeah.
own heart? Which
It's got
that's
to
not
start
who you
somewhere.
are,
Yeah.
but you're going to expect people who've been killing each other for generations to all of a sudden, whoops, there's peace on earth. If we can't
Yeah.
even love our mom and dad and siblings, how can we have peace on earth? It's like it makes no sense. It's illogical.
No.
It's a dystopia. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And in a world, I mean, we're so caught up in distractions now. The noise is greater than ever. Things are moving so quickly. Um, things like AI is an element, but then you have everything else as well. I mean, the ideal is to, quiet some of that through automations and things. Maybe we don't have to be so involved or busy. I think of business and it's like busyness. Like there's a lot of busy we do in our businesses or as entrepreneurs driven people. So it's like how do we start to calm that down, quiet the mind, get more into the heart and understand what is it that we're trying to do here. And like I talk about what's your enough, like figure out what is the thing that's going to fulfill you to where you get that joy. It's probably not through scaling your company to the moon. and stressing yourself out along the process.
Yeah, what you're saying is so important. It's so true. It's like, again, if we use the yin and the yang, often I see many people who are extremely driven to make things happen, but it's not
Mm,
connected to their heart. And what ends up happening with these people, they burn out.
mm-hmm.
Then you have the
Yep.
opposite people who know exactly what needs to be done, but they're not taking actions. They get depressed. So the key is really like this, like you need to connect your goals to your heart, not to your head, not for the status, not to have the Lamborghini. Having a Lamborghini is nice, but if you define yourself by it and you get into a car accident, what's going to happen to you? So, you know,
Oof.
it's
Good.
it's true success. And somebody can be, I want to have a business and I want to impact my family so I can provide for my family. That's great. If that's what your heart wants,
Yeah.
it's perfect. Some other people, in their heart, what they want is they want to have a city impact. And that's what you want, that's great. If it's a state or provincial impact you want, a country, a world, at the same time, you need to be authentic to yourself. Like
Mm.
one day I was in Mexico. I like to go to this little island called Isla Mujeres.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
You heard
That's
of it?
nice. Yeah.
So I used to stay in
Yeah.
this little hotel called Hotel Garrafon de Castilla. I just like saying the name.
Uh,
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, I'm lying there in bed, and then at sunrise, I hear pop, 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 pop. And I'm watching these fishermen. I know they're going fishing, they're going to catch their fish and then come back around noon. They're going to unload their fish and then go home, and that they're done for the day. And I'm going, man,
Yep.
why don't I just live like that, Why do I
Right.
have to push myself and make all these things happen? And then I go, you do this for 3 months, you'll be bored out of your mind. And then I went polar opposite to the fisherman. I went and I spent a week with John DeMartini. And John, like,
Yeah, yeah.
back then used to sleep like 4 hours a night. And it's like, and if you try to be doing what John is doing, you burn out. So what,
Well, he's on his boat too, right? So he's always off somewhere doing something.
I couldn't do it because I need time in
Yeah.
nature. I need time to connect with my higher self. I need, breath work, all these things. Like I need this for me. My goal is to, since 1989, I wrote a statement of purpose for my life, and my career statement says, I'm going to help transform the life of 1 million people through connecting them with their heart. So every day of my
Mm.
life, I've been, focusing on that and making, you know, things happen.
Yep.
But I didn't have a choice. It's not my ego that decided I want to do this. It's like it was so deep within my heart that I made that. But my goal is not any better than somebody who's a carpenter who wants to create beautiful furniture and puts his whole
Yeah.
heart into creating his furniture. Because when you do that, you also impact the world. Because if you have beauty around you, you end up impacting the people who live in it. So we all have to learn to be authentic and real to where we want
Mm.
to play. And if you go too
Yep.
low, you're going to get depressed. If you go too high, you're going to get burnt out. And it's so easy when we have gurus that we listen to. I like if you spell guru, Guru, guru. So we all
Yeah.
have to be inspired, yes, by people, but the reason we're inspired by these people is because they are living their purpose. And if we try to live their purpose, then we get in trouble. So whatever level you want to play at, be proud of it, be grateful, give it your whole heart, because then you have a
Mm.
world impact.
Yeah, I love it. And I relate to that as, know yourself really well, or at least like keep working on it because it'll get clearer and clearer. And, I've done a lot of journaling. I think wrote almost 10,000 words going deep into different stories of my life, different phases, and like answering a ton of questions and a whole self-authoring. And yeah, it's wild what when you go through the darkest things or the memories that were blanked out for whatever reason, they were quieted consciously, but subconsciously they're still
They're
there.
still there.
When the hints, yeah, and that's what was blowing my mind, and that starts to clarify where you want to go. And then you mentioned gurus or these people, whoever you're looking up towards. Could even be someone on Instagram traveling around, but you start to see what, like you believe what you see, and ideally it's something real. But even at the same time, maybe there's some mind tricks you can do. But it's like now that's, don't try to be them, but now see, okay, I see something new, a new perspective that's possible. How do I possibly fit into that? Or how can I, believe a little more of what's
Yeah,
possible?
because often what we do is we get excited by what they're doing because you feel this person is living their purpose. And that's what attracts us to them. But like, what's your thing? That's why it's so important. Like I have a weekend retreat called Extreme Freedom, and we spent a
Yeah.
whole day creating a statement of purpose. Because if you don't know where you're going to go, you end up going where people want to send you. So it's so important for you to take the time to know who you are, where you're going.
That's it. Well, Dr. Lise, so I want to leave people with a perfect next step, because I'm always thinking of the journey, and what you've just given us are a lot. It's a lot to think about, but also a lot to do, and be, there's the balance, the yin and yang of both. Where's the best next step to take folks in your world, knowing that bunch of driven and entrepreneurs listening here?
Yeah, I have programs for every budget, but if you are on a low budget and you want to really get big growth, I highly recommend you do my Extreme Freedom Retreat weekend. You can do it online, and I still talk to you like if you were in the room with me. You can come in person also, and it's powerful
Nice.
2 day that's going to transform your life very quickly. Then I have also my online program where I teach you how to do the heart freedom method. So when you're stuck, you can get yourself unstuck, and it's called Get Unstuck with Dr. Lise.
Perfect. Yes.
And you learn how to do it for yourself. But if you want to go higher, you can also coach with me or one of my coaches. You can get certified. Like I have budgets for everything. So you can just go onto my website, heartfreedommethod.com. And if you go in the middle of the page you can download some free gifts, but you can also just book a consultation, and one of my coaches
Awesome.
or me will get to talk with you.
Beautiful, Dr. Lise. And this is awesome. And I think it's been a common thing that, is finding what is it that I really want to be doing that serves not only me, but allows me to serve my biggest impact to the world around me, however that shape or form is. So I'm happy that we spent some time here. I mean, you answered so many of these little details.
Thank you for helping me bring this work in the world. I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Dr. Lise. So we'll catch you next time. Definitely those watching, listening, all the links that we mentioned, Dr. Lise, here is in the show description, show notes, and consider like and subscribe and leave some reviews for Dr. Lise here and tell her what you think, and definitely go reach out. So we'll catch you next time.